What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the brand new Samsung Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge to the iPhone 6 and see how they stack up. So I know around this time of year, a lot of people are going to be shopping around for new phones. Contracts are ending, a whole bunch of new hardware is hitting the market, so it makes sense that you're going to want to buy and upgrade your phone. Well, in this video, I'm going to discuss the beastly Samsung Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge and why you should get it or why you shouldn't get it over the iPhone 6. Now, I know it's very hard to keep bias to a minimum in these kind of videos, but that's exactly what I'm going to try to do. I'm just going to state the facts, basically the specifications, let you guys choose which phone is better for you based on which features they have. I'm going to talk about a little more than just the mechanical specs. There's so much to consider when buying these phones, and hopefully after finishing this video, you guys can get a better idea about which phone is the one for you. Now, I gotta say, after learning as much as I could about the phone, just taking in all the details, it's probably the closest we will ever get to use a phone that God himself used. This thing is just beastly, just completely destroying the iPhone on paper. Now, how it'll stack up in real life, I'm really curious, but right now, I'm going to go ahead and share all the specifications with you and see how it stacks up on paper. Now, something important to consider before I get into the details is that the Samsung Galaxy S5, the predecessor to the S6, was by no means a failure. It just did not receive as much attention as Samsung had hoped. It looked too close to the S4. The sales were actually below that of the S4, which is kind of crazy. There just wasn't as much distinguishing the S4 from the S5 that people immediately wanted to drop everything and just upgrade. So Samsung wanted to change that. They took the S6 and they completely redesigned it. It is so different from the S5 that, I was amazed myself how a company could just go from one direction to another just like that. And it could all be for a good thing. So the Samsung Galaxy S6 is made completely of aluminium and glass, just like the iPhone 6. There is no more plastic on the device. Build quality is extremely important to a buyer when choosing a device. They don't want something that feels flimsy, and aluminium and glass, it's just a feeling of reassurance. Your device is sturdy, and the new Samsung Galaxy S6 definitely takes some styling cues from the iPhone 6. However, it is arguable. So Samsung Galaxy S6 and iPhone 6 both entirely made of the same two materials, both extremely high quality products. Now, there are two models of the Samsung Galaxy S6. One of them is just a standard S6, the other the S6 Edge. Samsung said basically the curved edges aren't really adding extra screen space so much as allowing you to swipe in between pages easier, so it's really not as functional as the Galaxy Note Edge. However, it's a nice touch. So when I'm comparing the iPhone 6 to the 6S, it's pretty much the same device between the 6S and Edge, and I will be adding the extra specs in between. Now, the Galaxy S6 certainly went on a diet. It's a lot slimmer than the predecessor, the S5, so it's now 6.8 millimeters. That's just 1 millimeter below the iPhone 6. I mean, I can just imagine the engineers being told, we have to make this device just a little bit thinner than the iPhone 6 to rub it in their face, and that's exactly what they did. It's 0.1 millimeter thinner. Not only did the Samsung actually lose a little bit of size, it did get lighter as well, but not quite as light at 129 grams of the iPhone 6 versus 138. But that is actually really impressive considering they switched to an all glass and all aluminium design. Now, the Galaxy S6 Edge features different measurements. It's actually lighter at 132 grams versus 138 of the standard S6. However, it's just a little bit thicker than the iPhone 6 at 7 millimeters thickness versus 6.9 of the iPhone. Still actually very impressive dimensions considering that the screen display is bigger. It's 5.1 inches versus the 4.7 of the iPhone 6. Now, the displays on these devices use completely different technology. The iPhone 6 is coated with ion strengthened glass, and it features an IPS LCD display. Now, there's really nothing too special about that. It's an old technology. It's been in use for a very long time, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S6 features a Super AMOLED display, which is thought by some to be vastly superior to LCD technology. It features really good sunlight visibility, very good power efficiency, and actually very deep dark black colors. So the technology between these devices in the displays are definitely different. Now, something important to consider is that the pixel structure on the Galaxy S6 is is a diamond variant versus the standard on the iPhone 6. Now the resolution of the iPhone is 750 by 1334 pixels with a density of 326 pixels per inch. Now by Apple, that's called the Retina standard. So basically you cannot see individual pixels holding it, how you usually would hold your phone, whereas Samsung just takes it overboard. Holy crap, this thing has so many pixels. It's a full QHD display, which is 1440 by 2560 pixels and a 576 pixels per inch density. That is just insanity. The fact that so many pixels can exist on such a small display is mind-blowing to me. The Samsung Galaxy S6 does have a little bit larger display to accommodate for those edges, which is now at 1440 by 2660 pixels. Now, the one thing to consider, believe me, it's not really an issue, but the blues might burn out faster on an AMOLED display versus an LCD. Now, this is not something that would happen within 5 years of owning the phone, but if you were going to buy this phone and keep it until you died, the blues would go out on the display. It's just not as long-lasting as an LCD phone, but I'm sure you'll upgrade your phone long before that. Also important to consider, the Galaxy S6 features Gorilla Glass 4, which is just crazy how sturdy, how scratch resistant it is, whereas the iPhone 6 is just regular ion strengthened glass. I have a lot of scratches on mine. So one thing before I move into the processors, I want to mention that the Galaxy S6 is no longer waterproof, no longer shockproof, no longer dustproof. That IP67 rating has been removed, so it's now just like an iPhone. You drop it, you're going to suffer. You drop it in water, you're going to suffer. The S6 definitely goes a step backwards in terms of durability. You definitely have to make sacrifices if you want to feature such a beautiful design. Okay, so processors. The iPhone 6 features Apple's A8 chip, 1.4 gigahertz and 64-bit processing power. It's built on a 20 nanometer scale. So this is going to be a mouthful, but the Samsung Galaxy S6, both models do feature the same processor here in America, which is an Exynos 7 octa-core processor, 64-bit. Just take a moment and let that sink in. This thing is 8 cores in a phone. Now, 4 of these cores are going to be rated at 2.1 gigahertz, whereas the other 4 are 1.5 gigahertz. And that's probably in an attempt to keep that power when you need it, however, to keep battery life there as well. In a way, it's like cylinder deactivation on a supercar, where you don't need all the cylinders. Some of them are going to be deactivated when you don't need all that power. So 8 cores, 2.1 gigahertz. That is just insanity. Why do you need that much in your phone? But I'm sure with all the new applications, everything's going to be needing more power, and the S6 is going to be ready to meet that demand. Now, RAM on the iPhone 6 is 1 gigabyte DDR3 RAM, whereas it's 3 gigabytes LPDDR4 RAM on the S6. That is insane. 3 gigs of LPDDR4 RAM. That's the newest, fastest RAM there is right now. Now, the Galaxy S6 chip is built with a 14 nanometer process. Now, the GPU is separate on the Samsung Galaxy S6. It's a Mali T760 GPU, so I'm not actually going to be able to compare those until I have the devices in hand, but rest assured, I will be making a full comparison when I do have those. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting. Samsung completely dropped the user replaceable memory on the Samsung Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge. You can no longer add micro SD memory to your device. You'll be able to get the Samsung Galaxy S6 in 32, 64, and 128 gigabyte flavors, the iPhone 16, 64, and 128. The memory from the Samsung Galaxy S6 is a technology taken straight from the latest SSD hard drives. It's called UFS 2.0 Flash, and it's 2.7 times faster than the flash memory on the Galaxy S5. So that means loading stuff. I mean, booting your device up even is going to be so much quicker on the S6 than the iPhone 6 or the Galaxy S5. So of course, each memory option is going to be about $100 in between each other, and we'll get to pricing at the end. Now, camera. Camera has always been very important on any device. I mean, it's pretty much going to replace your point and shoot, whoever does carry those around, and the iPhone does a really good job at that. Apple is pretty much adding a little bit of features, a little bit of functionality each time around to the iPhone camera, improving the quality. And with the iPhone 6, what they did is they actually added focus pixels, which is a technology taken from DSLR cameras, which allow the camera to focus really quickly, especially in darker environments. The aperture is 2.2. It's an 8 megapixel sensor, and there's the True Tone flash unit, which allows you to take perfect skin tone colors in any environment. So, it's a very capable camera. Definitely not the highest megapixel count, but it's the quality that matters. There is no optical image stabilization on the 6. Unfortunately, it's only available on the 6 Plus. Now, the camera on the Samsung Galaxy S6 is a 16 megapixel ISO chip. It has an aperture of 1.9 and it's better than the iPhone 6, which means pictures in darker environments will turn out better. It lets in more light, more detail, so you're definitely going to have better imaging quality on the Samsung Galaxy S6. Now, Samsung definitely decided to catch up to the iPhone. They threw in optical image stabilization, which the iPhone 6 standard version does not have. They also threw in focus pixels. So the same technology as the iPhone 6 when it comes to focus has been added to the S6. And Samsung was definitely very proud of how fast they could load the camera and take a picture on the S6 in their demo, which is pretty impressive. There's just a single LED flash unit on the back and True Tone flash on the 6. Now, camera capabilities. The Galaxy S6 can record at 4K at 30 frames per second, which makes sense. It does have a QHD display. The iPhone 6 1080p at 60 frames per second. And I want to mention that Samsung has definitely addressed a lot of the issues they had with color correction. They did a lot of software tweaking and they're very proud of how true to life their camera is now. Now, the one thing the iPhone 6 has on the Samsung Galaxy S6 is the ability to record 720p in 240 frames per second, which can make for some really stunning video. The S6 can only manage that in 120 frames per second. Now, both cameras are not flush with the back of the phone. Both of them do stick out a little bit. And front-facing cameras are definitely in a different league from the iPhone 6 to the 6S. On the iPhone 6, it's just 1.2 megapixels. It can record 720p video and it has HDR. On the S6, it's an ultra-wide lens, which means you can get a lot of stuff in selfie mode, for example, and it can record in 1080p, 30 frames per second. It's 5 megapixels, and it also has HDR, and the aperture is 1.9, which means taking selfies in the dark is going to get magically a lot better now. There's also dual video recording mode where you can record both on the front and rear on the S6, which is a very nice feature. So, battery. What's the point of all those features if you can't enjoy your phone and it dies? The iPhone 6 was actually pretty good in terms of battery life. It features an 1810 mAh battery, which is sufficient for the size of the phone. You can get 250 hours of standby out of it, 14 hours of talk, and 50 of music. So that's very adequate. You can get a full day of life out of the iPhone 6. So the Samsung Galaxy S6, we don't have official time specs for it yet, but the specs do look impressive. There's a 2550 battery on the standard S6 and a 2600 mAh on the S6 Edge. There's a feature called fast charge, which means in 10 minutes, you can get 4 hours of use out of your battery. 10 minutes of charging. You can use it for 4 hours, just standard use, and 2 hours of HD video. That's incredible. Imagine you're in a situation where you don't have much time, you just need to charge real quick, and boom, you got 4 hours of usage right there just from 10 minutes. Not only that, but the Galaxy S6 now has wireless charging with many different standards. So if you already have a wireless charger, just put your S6 on there, it should work. And there's ultra power saving mode, which is a software feature that disables a lot of radios, a lot of features you don't need in your device, and it actually prolongs the battery life for a very long time. It's like ultra starvation mode. Now, wireless specs on the iPhone 6, it has the latest 802.11 AC Wi-Fi. The S5 didn't, the S6 has it now too. The iPhone 6 Bluetooth is 4.0 and there is a new standard 4.1 which the S6 does incorporate. Also important to note, the S6 does have that feature where you can combine both the LTE power and Wi-Fi power to download things even faster. So of course, both devices do have NFC capabilities. However, the NFC from the iPhone 6 can only be used for Apple Pay, which is widely accepted now. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S6 has its own payment system called Samsung Pay, and it's going to be accepted in many areas. They're starting to make it very standard as well. So definitely the first successful payment system based on Apple Pay from Samsung that will be taken. Now, the speaker on the Samsung Galaxy S6 has been taken from the back on the S5 and put directly on the bottom. So speaker placement is probably going to be a negative, but Samsung has said that the speaker volume is 1.5 times better than that of the Samsung Galaxy S5. So definitely louder there. There is also a built-in amplifier on the S6, which I think is really cool. So software, currently iOS 8.1.3 is available on the iPhone at the time of me making this video, but in the future, the iPhone will receive an iOS 8.2 update, and iOS 8.3 update, and 8.4, and iOS 9 after that. So So 8.2 will probably be the current software when the Galaxy S6 does come out, and whereas on the Galaxy S6, Android Lollipop 5.0.2 with all the latest fixes, all those new features, the flat design will be standard on the Galaxy S6. And Samsung has definitely made some software enhancements to their TouchWiz UI, so it'll definitely be more user-friendly and it will have new features as well. Now, when it comes to security, the iPhone 6 has Find My iPhone, which you can locate your iPhone remotely, and activation lock to lock devices, prevent them from being sold. Definitely a cool feature. Now, Samsung has come out with its own counterpart, the Find My mobile software, suspiciously similar sounding to Find My iPhone, which pretty much achieves the very same thing, and it also has reactivation lock, also suspiciously similar to activation lock. Now, there's one thing in particular I really liked, and that's remote ultra power saving mode. If your device gets lost or stolen, you can remotely enable that mode so your device stays online as long as possible, giving you a better chance of finding it. Really brilliant, Samsung. That is incredible. Now, this is the iPhone 6 competitor. Pricing is probably going to be very similar. There's no official numbers yet. However, estimates are that it will start at $650 off contract and go up $100 every memory size option, and that's exactly how the iPhone 6 is priced. It starts at $650 for 16 gigabytes, goes up to $750 for 64, and then $128 is $850. Now, off contract prices will be exactly the same. Samsung is trying to outdo Apple with their 32 gigabyte standard sizing option, and it starts at $199 for the 16 on the iPhone 6 and $100 up in between. Now, the iPhone 6, of course, currently out. You can buy it right now. The Samsung Galaxy S6 is coming out on April 20th. Pre-orders will start, about a month before then to 20 markets around the world, and in May it's going to be available to many more countries. So I do want to mention that the Samsung Galaxy S6 is kind of iPhone-ified, if that makes any sense. The design, very similar to the iPhone. Speaker placement, very similar. They changed the fingerprint sensor to where you don't have to slide down on the sensor anymore. You just touch it once and it's going to activate. Very similar to Apple. They implemented their own Apple Pay system called Samsung Pay. They removed that removable battery. They removed the removable memory. They made this thing just like an iPhone. It's kind of hard to believe. I wonder if there are any lawsuits in the making. The Samsung Galaxy S6 is really not going to be competing with the iPhone 6. It's in a whole different league of its own. This thing just blows the iPhone out of the water spec-wise, but we do know that Apple really does a good job of optimizing their devices, even though the specs are lower. So who knows how these will stack up until we actually have the devices in hand, which I will be doing a full comparison video on. Now, the reason you'd want to get an iPhone over the Samsung is if you like simple. I mean, this thing just has it all laid out for you. It's incredibly simple. It's actually very stable now that Apple has released some new iOS 8 updates, making it more stable. A lot of bug fixes in there. It doesn't give you a lot of control, but it's very reassuring knowing it's in good hands with Apple, and everything is there. You just know how to work it. It's very simple. Now, the Galaxy S6 will be more of a device for those people that like to take charge. You like the latest cutting edge technology. You like to change things up, customize your device, make your device as personal as possible. Galaxy S6 helps you do that, and it's definitely more for a power user. All that RAM and processing power, that display, it's top of the line, latest technology. So when the 6S comes out, that's going to be more of a true competitor for the Galaxy S6, which of course I will make a full video on in the future. But for now, the iPhone 6 to the Galaxy S6, the real choice depends on what you need out of your phone. Do you need simplicity, ease of use? That's the iPhone. If you want total customization, razor edge technology, that's the Samsung Galaxy S6. And like I said, guys, I will do a full comparison when I do get the phones in hand, so subscribe to see that. In the meantime, if you want to see some past comparisons, you can do so here. And guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Galaxy S6 is just a monster. I cannot wait to try it out, compare it to the iPhone 6. Anyways, I do hope this video helped you guys make that choice. I did inform you on some of the important things to consider when buying a new phone, so I do hope you guys make the correct choice. Have a great day, guys. Peace.